as we had discussed before about various pathogenesis behind the behind hypertensive retinopathy and other exudative changes, we'll just see in much detail about how exudative changes are going to play a role. So here first comes the cotton wool spots. So we all know what is cotton wool spots. It is a white spot on the retinal surface caused by micro infractions. Okay, so and moreover, cotton wool spots doesn't affect any show any visual loss unless it is involved in at the center and then it is large enough in the fovea. So this is how a cotton wool spots is majorly being detected, and it is like cotton wool spots are most commonly associated with uh, diabetes, connective tissue diseases, hypertensive disease, and case of HIVs. So this is how a cotton wool spot is going to appear, like an whitish appearance, how paint which has been like a patches. Okay, so so other than cotton wool spots, other things which look like an similar with little differences, the hard exudates, then the retinal drusen, then this is how a cotton wool spot is going to look like. So we know what is hard exudates, and then we all know what is drusens. So just see how this is going to be different, distinguished from cotton wool spots. So just want to make sure that how the difference of various findings are going to look like, how we actually differentiate it. Okay, so coming to hard exudates, how they usually occur is they are made up of lipid deposits, which is a result of a leakage from my damaged capillaries. Okay, so they are going to look like a yellow flakes. Okay, whereas cotton wool spots would look like an kind of patchy appearance. Here it looks like a flakes. Okay, so this is how and hard exudates will have a distinct margin again. Okay, so and cotton wool spots usually occurs fluffy, as we had discussed in during our diabetic retinopathy discussion. So this is how a major difference between a retinal exudates and cotton wool spots are going to be. Okay, so here next comes the retinal hemorrhages. So we all know how a retinal hemorrhage looks like. It can be a flame shaped hemorrhage or blood shaped hemorrhage. In case of hypertensive retinopathy, we see more of flame shaped hemorrhages. Okay, so if you look here, it is like it is a flame shaped. So most common association with flame shaped hemorrhages is the hypertension, leukemia, anemic, and in case of retinal vein occlusion, and in case of trauma as well. So flame shaped hemorrhages are usually a rupture on retinal nerve fiber layer of a superficial precapillary arterioles. Okay, so those are the when there is a breakage in the precapillary arterioles, there will be a flame shaped hemorrhage. So it got a name flame shaped because it is like a flame shaped. It is not like a dot or blot hemorrhage. Okay, then again coming to pathogenesis, we have another findings which is called as papilloedema. Okay, which is a swelling of optic disc. Why it is called as papilloedema is edema is swelling. Disc is has other name called as papillae, so that's why it is papilloedema. So here when does the indication of a papilloedema indicates that there is a high elevated blood pressure and there is a malignant hypertension which had caused changes in the retina. Okay, so the major treatment concerning papillary edema is comes to controlling the blood pressure again. Okay, so again hypertensive retinopathy can be divided into two types. One is the malignant hypertensive retinopathy and the chronic hypertensive retinopathy. So in case of a malignant hypertensive retinopathy, the blood pressure will be more than 180/120. So whereas in case of the symptoms comes to symptoms can be divided into eye pain, headache and reduced visual acuity, and these are the major symptoms what a patient come to you when they have a malignant hypertensive retinopathy. Okay, so signs of a chronic and a malignant hypertensive retinopathy is, when it comes to chronic hypertensive retinopathy, there will be a narrowing of arteries, there will be and then there will be a nicking, and then there will be a arteriolar reflex changes, which is a silver wiring and the copper wiring reflex. So when it comes to malignant, there will be constricted and tortuous blood vessel. Tortuous is like a rotated or like a springish. You will be able to see too much of bends in the blood vessel. So that's how a tortuous blood vessels looks like. So then is the retinal hemorrhages, hard exudates, cottonwool spots, retinal edema and the papillary edema. Okay, so malignant is more dangerous than chronic. So coming to the classification, here it is like this is a major classification which we use in case of a hypertensive retinopathy. So make sure you remember this classification, Kth classification. So usually it has 4 grades. So first grade is mild hypertension. So where what you will be seeing is the generalized arteriolar narrowing. So and the patient will have no symptoms. So this is where we find it with a regular eye examination. Okay, so and then in case of grade 2, there will be a narrowing, there will be a arteriovenous crossing, and then there will be a sclerosis of the retinal arterioles. So again the patient will be asymptomatic. When it comes to grade 3, there will be retinal hemorrhages, exudates, cottonwool spots, sclerosis and spastic lesions of retinal arteries. So and then this is a place where a patient will come with some kind of symptoms like eye pain or visual loss. Okay, so then comes the the 4th grade, where all the findings from grade 3 with the papillary edema. Here this is the case where the patient vision retrieval is very hard enough. Okay, so again there is one classification which has 3 major things. So it is like, one is a no retinopathy, there will be no detection and of any signs. One is a mild retinopathy, where you get all these generalized arterial narrowing, arteriovenous nicking, and then there will be a silver wiring, etc. So when it comes to moderate, you will be able to see cottonwool spots, hard exudates and hemorrhages, along with what you see in mild retinopathy. When it comes to malignant, again it is moderate retinopathy plus optic disc swelling. You will be able to see a papillary edema. So whenever there is a optic disc swelling, it is like the mortality rate is very the patient's survival is a question mark. So make sure, just in case if you are going to miss out a optic disc edema or papillary edema, that might even be a fatal mistake where a patient might even die. So make sure you look into these retinal findings more properly. So once you find a papillary make sure, it is like eye is a window of a brain, so make sure eye mimics much greater changes than what your other body parts do, and then you will be able to find out major findings than a normal investigation. So just a fundus examination can give you much more than much other examinations. Okay, so when you look at this image shows you a mild hypertensive retinopathy where there is a generalized arteriolar narrowing. So I think it is seen here. Okay, so when in this figure you could able to see a arteriovenous necking. There is a overlap. Okay, so in this picture again you are able to see cotton wool spots and retinal hemorrhages here. Okay, so here this is the malignant one. See how the edematous disc is looking like and then how a healthy disc is looking like. So this is a fatal mistake if you are not going to find this. So make sure you have a develop better fundus examination skills. Okay, so how we usually diagnose things is usually we dilate fundus, we do a dilated fundus examination, or in case if it is non-mydriatic, again it is fine. Okay, again, at least it non-mydriatic can be used as a screening tool at least. So make sure you do how correlate hypertension and its duration and the medications taken. So usually we diagnose with 90D, and in IDO we can be using, and then optical coherent tomography, and then fluorescent can again be used. So these are the major things which we use to see a fundus examination. Okay, so coming to the primary prevention. So the primary prevention of this condition is monitoring and treating patient blood pressure. So once they are under control, your hypertensive retinopathy will be avoided. So make sure what is the treatment which is going on, and then make sure your patient gets a regular PP checkup. Okay, coming to the complications of a hypertensive retinopathy, it can be divided into retinal vascular disease and then ischemia secondary to vascular occlusion. So vascular disease directly is due to how it is like linking, and then other things occur, how a macroaneurysm occurs, and then how there is a branch retinal artery occlusion and how a branch retinal vein occlusion occurs. So when it comes to secondary, when there is a blockage in the blood vessels, there is a hypoxia. So whenever there is an hypoxia, there will be other changes which is occurring more pertinent with which is a ischemic changes. So as we had discussed about in the previous classes about diabetic retinopathy and retinal detachments, patient would start developing neovascularization as a result of hypoxia, and then there will be a vitreous hemorrhage. It is like how these changes occur. If you are not sure, make sure you go see that videos there and then come back again. Okay, see how a tractional retinal detachments usually occur. So this is how further changes occur. So this leads to more diabetic retinopathy progressions. So in case if you are not clear about what we are discussing about how the changes would occur, I would request you to kindly go back and watch those videos so that it would be fine. Okay, so when it comes to management, a treatment for hypertensive retinopathy is primarily focused upon reducing the blood pressure. There might be a general treatment, there is a medical therapy follow-up under surgery. Okay, so coming to general treatment, it can be for malignant hypertensive and then medical treatment. So when it comes to malignant hypertensive, the option is to reduce the blood pressure below 140/90. When in case of medical treatment, if it is an acute change of hypertension from vasospasm or vascular leakage, we have a treatment. If it is a chronic changes, we don't have any treatment. Okay, so these are the things which we have to consider. And then the treatment for hypertensive retinopathy is primarily focused upon reducing though it is being blood pressure. The medical therapy includes uh, prescribing drugs like angiotensin, enzyme inhibitors, then calcium channel blockers, diuretics, and beta adrenergic blockers. These are the major things for managing of a hypertension. Okay, then comes the medical follow-up from the surgery. So again, follow-up is dependent upon the degree of hypertension and how resistant the patient is to a particular medication. Okay, so we have to have follow-up and then make sure that things are going on fine and then patient is responding to a particular medication. When it comes to surgery, there is no direct surgery which can control this, but surgeries are done on a secondary involvement of eye because of hypertensive retinopathy. Maybe like retinal detachments, we have a triage surgery, and then these are the things. So we have surgeries for options for secondary causes. We don't have surgery options for direct cause of a retinal detachment. I mean the hypertensive retinopathy, not retinal detachments. Okay, so these are the major treatment. And then how management, it can be divided into if there is a patient with hypertension, make sure you take a complete medical history. There is an examination and then operate laboratory investigation and management, and then should be a complete retinal examination by eye care practitioners. And then when it comes to science equivalent or examination, not where there is no examination possible, make sure that they are being referred to appropriate ophthalmologist, the retina specialist who can investigate the disease further and then make sure it is going on. So other further coming on to the classification, so when there is no retinopathy, we should make sure that the patient is undergoing regular the regular checkup, so there should be a routine care. And then when it comes to mild retinopathy, make sure that they are referred not referred there should be a routine care as well. And then there should be make sure that the they are monitoring for other cardiovascular diseases again. So this is where, because hypertension is again associated with other systemic diseases as well, and then we should make sure that eye is a window and we can diagnose much more than diseases in the eye with findings in the eye. Okay, so when it comes to moderate retinopathy, screen for diabetes and then make sure they are being referred to the appropriate specialist, and then you will need a close monitoring again in this case. When it comes to malignant, you will need a urgent treatment for hypertension, so that they are not being the condition is not going to turn into fatal. Okay, so here is just an example of case which has a hypertensive retinopathy. So we'll just discuss a case so that you might get a flow of how it can go with. So this is a case of 59-year-old male presenting with 2-month history of painless progressive loss of vision in both the eyes. So he has right eye more affected than his left eye. His past ocular history was unremarkable, and his best corrected visual acuity was 2200 in the right eye and 2040 in the left eye. So intraocular pressures were normal, and anterior segments examination were also found okay. Then on doing confrontation, he had supranasal defect in the right eye and supratemporal defect in the left eye. So this is a fundus examination. Fundus examination of the right eye showed a pale optic disc, so which is an indication of edema. So there will be attenuated or tortuous blood vessels with arteriovenous crossing. Okay, Okay, so there are so much crossing here. Okay, so in this image there is a crossing here, there is a crossing here. So and then there it is like there is whitish uh, and sclerotic changes as well. So here are the, and there are some other pigmentary changes which you will be able to find here in this as a dots here. So these are the major changes which we find in this particular image. When then the left eye showed a normal optic disc, and then there is a attenuation, blood vessel attenuated. So here uh, the macula and multiple collateral veins were present, and there are scattered retinal hemorrhages, if you could see here. Okay, so these are the major changes which we find in this particular image. And then when it comes to FFA, the there you the image revealed there is a choroidal ischemia. Okay, and then there is a large wedge shaped area temporal the right side, delayed in the choroidal vascular filling. Okay, so these are the major findings which we have to consider in case of FFA. When it comes to left eye, it showed numerous collateral blood vessels, and except for that nothing other things were normal. Okay, so on doing an OCT found this like in both the eyes the maculas were normal. At the same time there was some hyper reflective spots, and then and in case of a right eye the macula also showed a retinal thinning. Okay, so there is an optic disc pallor again. Okay, so these are the findings which we have to consider in case of a OCT. So this is how changes in cases are going to be, and then make sure if you go further read on this so that you get a get better flow. Okay, so thank you.